Welcome to another episode of the Sports Sentiment. I am your host, Nique, and we are back once again talking college basketball after a stacked Saturday slate concludes. We are here to talk all about it. Mountain West Hoops absolutely delivered after what I would say a classic in Logan, Utah between Boise State and Utah State. San Jose State getting their first conference victory of the season on the road at the Air Force Academy. Nevada and Fresno playing an overtime thriller at the Save Mart Center. Colorado State dominating the UNLV running Rebels in New Mexico, getting a statement win at the pit versus the San Diego State Aztecs. We're going to talk all about it. Just first and foremost, what a day of college basketball. Conference play, there's nothing like it. I mean, the rivalry games, going on the road in the Mountain West, dealing with altitudes. You're starting to see life on the road ain't so easy. You got to deal with some hostile environments. You got to deal with, some high elevations, which is not always easy. And it doesn't matter who you're playing. We're going to talk about that with San Jose State. It doesn't matter who you're playing. If you could win a game on the road in any league, but I would feel like, especially in the Mountain West, for how competitive it is and how unpredictable at times this league can be. If you get a win on the road, you got to tip your cap because wins on the road are hard to come by in the Mountain West. And you could say that for a few other leagues, probably the Big 12 being another, the Big 10 for how good those teams play at home. But winning on the road in the Mountain West is a different beast. And, some teams took care of that, Nevada and San Jose State. We're going to talk about those games and those matchups and what we liked and what we didn't like from those respective teams. But hey, overall, like we said last week, if you're not on board with this college hoops action, you're simply just missing out. And that's all we can really say because Boise State and Utah State, instant classic in Logan. But before we go there, we got to talk the first matchup of the day because San Diego State and New Mexico was a game that really was dominant by the Lobos. One-sided affair between the New Mexico Lobos. New Mexico now 6-0 in league play. Like, wow. How many people had that on their bingo card? I certainly didn't. I imagine if we go to folks in Albuquerque, New Mexico, they would probably say, be a little bit more optimistic and say, yeah, that'd be nice if we were 6-0. But I don't know. With this roster, we talked about this roster last week. I had my questions about the bench play, and obviously Donovan Dent is a stud, and who are going to be some of the complementary players, and can they step up? But wow, this has been a great team to watch, and I know when they're at the pit, they are a different animal. Teams, obviously, all the coaches and the players that have been in the Mountain West know that, but wow, New Mexico, the Lobos, 6-0 in league play, win 62-48 against the San Diego State Aztecs. Donovan Dent led the way with 16 points, which quite honestly, I thought it was a pretty quiet Donovan Dent game. Like he had a casual 16 points. He really didn't have to do too much in this game. It wasn't one of those Donovan Dent type performances. He did have 5 assists. So we talked about his playmaking abilities and his scoring abilities. But to me, I thought this was all about, the role guys for New Mexico in a game like this. Obviously, San Diego State, they just really didn't show up in this game. But I was very impressed with New Mexico's, the other guys, if you will, quote unquote, the other guys, like a Mustafa Amzil, who's really emerged this season as a really good piece. Like number two, number three option, we could call him that. Number three, number four, you can argue whatever which way on any given night, but Amzil, when he was at Dayton, he was almost like just a spot up shooter. But now that he's come to New Mexico, he was coming off the bench for the most part last year, I believe. And this year, he's just, had himself a much more exceeded role. And he knows his role and he's playing his role. Like he can go slash and rebound and play defense and, just grind and, force a tie up on the opposition. Like he is one of those grinder type dudes that you want on your team. I was very impressed with his play, 10 points, 11 rebounds, and, had I mean, 3 blocks and 2 steals in this game. I mean, defensively, he has been a menace for New Mexico. And obviously, we talked about his 3-point shot. Didn't hit a three in this game, but you got to respect his 3-point shot. But if anybody was, I know Lobo fans were expecting a lot of Amzeal this year. Um, this has been very impressive for me. What we've gotten out of him in a game where Donovan Dent, sure, he doesn't really have to do too much. He doesn't have to go off. He doesn't have to take over like we've seen in past games with him. The VCU game, prime example, he has to drop 40 in a win. Like when you got a guy like Amzeal that can go do things on both ends and really just shut down the Aztecs. True Washington, big time offensive game for him. He had 13 points. We already know he is a great on ball defender that's going to poke some balls loose. He's going to get some steals. He's going to get a fast break layup the other way. New Mexico just controlled the game from start to finish. Really impressed me with their role players, even their bench. We've called out their bench respectfully a bunch. Like, is this bench gonna, keep up? Can they get some productivity out of it? Because if this team is Donovan Dent reliant every single night, the wheels will eventually fall off in March. Like if they're expecting this guy to drop 20 a game and north of that and, take all these body blows, like in the Mountain West in the physical league, you question that. If Dent can, have the mileage to go all the way for a March Madness run. Right now, New Mexico, they're proving right now that, they could have big games from True Washington and Mustafa Amzeal, and they don't have to be so Dent reliant. Nelly Jr. Joseph, I mean, three for 10 shooting in this game. Again, they didn't really need him. He was banging and bumping with Magoon Guath. Magoon Guath, great defensive player for the Aztecs in the front court. He's like he's like top 5 in the nation in blocks per game. He had 4 blocks in this game. The Aztec big man. But Junior Joseph is a guy where he can go off any given night. The past couple games, he's been scuffling a little bit, but still, that's a guy you still have to respect. He's one of the better players in the Mountain West. And, we talked about New Mexico's bench, and I like what I saw from them. The numbers won't reflect it, but the eye test will. If you rewatch that San Diego State New Mexico game at the Pit, I mean, CJ Nolan. I mean, they got Dotson off the bench. Dotson, he only hit 1 3, but had a couple energy plays in there. Forced to tie up. Had a block and a contest, like stuff that won't go on the stat sheet. He was able to make an impact on, and I imagine that Richard Pitino will be calling his name a whole lot more in certain spots, and they're gonna need that energy. Because when that building gets going and, a defensive play here and a dunk the other way, that place can blow up. And, it could catch fire pretty quick with that crowd. So New Mexico, their depth is starting to come along for the ride in conference games, especially in a game with the San Diego State Aztecs. That really impressed me. As far as the San Diego State side, I mean, my goodness, like, Am I a little bit shocked? Yes, but this has been, I would say, the past 2 years now with Dutcher and the Aztecs, where the league is catching up. The league is catching up to them in a way, like where they're not going to go 30-2 like that 2020 season, and they're just going to blow out and beat everybody. No, like when they go on the road, they're going to lose games. Like it's that simple. Like there are teams that they're not the best team in the Mountain West this year. It's safe to say that now. Utah State and New Mexico are better than them. Those two teams beat the Aztecs, and Utah State won at Viejas Arena. So San Diego State, I said like a couple weeks ago that offensively they're better. Do I still think that? Yes, but man, when they are cold, they are ice cold. And they were ice cold in this game. I mean, their shot selection was not good in this game at all. I mean, 4 minutes into the game, you got Miles Bird and BJ Davis just chucking up grenades like when they're down 12-4. Like you can't have that, especially on the road. Sure, you could get away with that at home, but I just don't like the shot selection from those guys, especially early on. I mean, they only trailed by 10 at halftime, which the way New Mexico was dominating this game was kind of like, really? The Lobos are only up 10? Like it felt like they were up 15, 17, close to 20 in this game at halftime. They dominated that much. And, for San Diego State, they had 5.7 minutes into the game. You know, Det only had 4 points at halftime. And, San Diego State was trailing as much as 17 in this game. That was with about 8, 9 minutes to go. They had 13 turnovers and 14 made field goals. Like, that is very uncharacteristic for Brian Dutcher type teams. And I have to say, they really miss Reese Waters right now. Like, in a game like that, that is a game you need Reese Waters. I think overall, like in crunch time, in a lot of these games, San Diego State's kind of been playing with fire a little bit in some of these games. Like, right, the Utah State game, it was a tale of two halves for them. This game, New Mexico defensively, got to give them credit. They really put the clamps down on the Aztecs, forced them into some bad shots, but this is just very uncharacteristic from San Diego State teams. And I know they don't score the ball tremendously, but still, you don't see this all too often where they just get ran out of the building. This year and last year we're starting to get accustomed to it, I guess. But still, that is still very surprising. And New Mexico did this exact same thing last year. San Diego State came to town, controlled the game. Great game on offense and defense from the Lobos, and San Diego State really didn't have a shot. So is this really just going to be a scheduled loss every single year now for the Aztecs? I don't know, but it's clear that they need some sort of jolt of energy from somebody when they get on the road. Is Miles Bird that guy? I mean, he could bring it to you defensively. He's going to have to get the shot going offensively. I mean, they need other guys to make jump shots. Like it's obviously simple, but like they need a Jared Coleman Jones. They need a BJ Davis to get hot. And man, they just really miss Reese Waters right now. And there was an update 4 days ago on Reese Waters is going to get a CT scan on January 20th, so that's about a week out. And there's going to probably be made a decision, based on what those results come out of on his injury. I mean, does he just redshirt this year? I mean, that's where the timetable was around Christmas, and obviously we're way past Christmas now, and we're in the meat of conference play here. Like, are they just gonna just ride the ship at this point without Reese Waters? Because obviously eligibility matters at this day in collegiate sports and athletics. And I don't know, is Reese Waters just might say, well, the heck with it. I'm not 100% healthy, and the I don't really want to mess up the team chemistry. I don't know. But that is a conversation that is, I imagine, is going to be had between Coach Dutcher and Reese Waters here towards the back end of January and February. So keep an eye on that news because whew, if Reese Waters is not available for the year, if he just decides to just use the medical red shirt, that significantly downgrades like San Diego State long term, right? Because everyone was the expectations was that he was going to come back like first couple games of conference play, and now that we're already like 6, 7 league games in, this is starting to get more and more problematic because Reese Waters is one hell of a scorer. I mean, he was Pac-12 sixth man of the year at USC. We saw what he can do last year. He was supposed to be the number one option this year. Like there was some high expectations like for him. Like this was kind of like his and Miles Bird's team. Like, hey, you're the go-to scorers. You're the next guys up. San Diego State. I mean, they will always just pass the torch, right? It'll be Matt Bradley, and then it'll be Lamont Butler, and then Jaden Ledee. Like they're always primed to have a breakout guy every year that has sat within their system and pipeline, and then all of a sudden he burst onto the scene, and he has an exceeding role, and they have obviously a breakout year. We saw that with Ledee last year. Reese Waters was supposed to be that guy, quite honestly. Miles Bird as well. Miles Bird was going to be like the number two, and Bird is like the number one right now. So You got a lot of inexperience right now. I mean, Wayne McKinney, he's got experience but hasn't played at this level. You know, the San Diego Toreros is a step up from to San Diego State and playing in, high level Mountain West games compared to like the Toreros lower tier WCC play. I mean, this there's a lot of guys that need to step up that haven't had that big time playing experience at this level in these high leverage moments. And right now, you're starting to see that right now for San Diego State, where they just for a team that doesn't have old guys and has had old guys forever, they need an old guy right now to step up, and they don't necessarily have the reinforcements that they've had in past years. Sure, Nick Boyd might be the guy. I mean, Nick Boyd, the Florida Atlantic transfer, he's played in big games, right? I mean, made the NCAA tournament, went on the Final Four run. I mean, was on the wrong side of the Lamont Butler shot of a lifetime in the Final Four. So he's been there. So if you're looking for a guy to step up, that'd probably be the guy. He is the point guard. So obviously there's some high expectations for him. And right now with San Diego State, I mean, we might just be getting to a point here where they go into a hostile environment on the road against a really good team. I know they still got at Utah State, at Colorado State. I mean, at Wyoming. I mean, there's some tough road situations in here in the month of February. I don't know. This is a team to monitor on the road. They're going to be obviously a wagon at Viejas, but that was not encouraging performance for me on the Aztecs. So we're obviously going to monitor their offensive situation there, because that was not a pretty performance, scoring 48 points on the road. That's not going to get it done. Let's talk about SJSU and the Air Force Falcons. I know that was a game for SJSU fans where, do you want to put the label on must-win game? Yes, you're on the road. You're 0-5 in league play. You've been in every single game, pretty much in the Mountain West, minus the New Year's Eve Colorado State game. And, for San Jose State trailed at the half. They needed obviously the guys to step up big time. They needed more than one guy, and they got it. I mean, Will McClendon led the show with 20 points. I mean, he hit 5 threes in this game, which was massive. He was really the go-to guy in this game. And, credit SJSU, I think we're starting to see where it could be different guys on different nights, right? Day Hall was great versus Cal Poly and Kennesaw State. Josh Aduje, for the most part, has been the constant, right? Where you're going to get 15 a game from him. You might get 20 a game from him. Will McClendon's a guy. He's been, if you want to put a label on, the number 2 option, but on some nights he's been the number 1 option. This night at Colorado Springs he was. Donovan Yap has started to play much better. He had 13 points in the road win. San Jose State, it could be Josh, could be Will, could be Day, could be Yap. Like we said, they're gonna feed the hot hand, and Will had the hot hand. They kept feeding him, and they rallied behind him. I would say SJSU, they have their guys that are gonna score every night, but some guy might be hotter than the other, and they're gonna continue to feed him. And credit to them. The big thing about San Jose State was, right, can they finish the game? And they trailed at half. You're thinking, oh boy, you lose this game, there's gonna be some massive issues. And they had themselves a double-digit lead. Obviously, like we said, winning on the road is never easy. You're gonna get the best shot from the home team. It doesn't matter who you're playing, right? Even a 3-11 Air Force Falcon team heading into this one. And I know Air Force hasn't looked pretty at all, but you see, a Luke Carney come off the bench and hit some threes, or he started. Just a plethora of players, right? Ethan Taylor, a 3-point sniper. Jeffrey Mills, Marshall hit a big 3 late. Like, you're gonna get the best effort from these teams. It's league play. Joe Scott, Air Force Falcon head coach, obviously knows the scouting report on SJSU. Like, these coaches, they're so good. Like they know, obviously they have the scouting report, but it's like a, NFL teams like in, going head to head in their division. Like they know everything, right? It's pretty much like these coaches have been around, outside of like Vance Wahlberg and Jared Calhoun, right? Like those guys are first year head coaches just bursting onto the scene here in the Mountain West. So, you know, Joe Scott and Tim Miles know each other. They know like the base concepts and everything. So, these two teams have played close games over the years, and this one was no different. I mean, this one got a little squirrely, at the end, right? I mean, SJSU, I think, was as much as 14. Air Force kind of gave their best shot, right? And SJSU had to close out the game. Like they had to make plays down the stretch. I mean, Josh Aduje, he had a big corner three. What was it, to go up from 5 to 8? And then Marshall responded with a three the next play, like quick trigger the other way 10 seconds later. I mean, Will McClendon attempted a three, and then Josh had a big offensive rebound. Rob Viola drew a foul late, like when they needed a bucket, and he made the free throws. So it's situations like that. And I talked to Rob this afternoon, and he said, like, hey, like closing out games is a real skill. And, like they're still working on that, but this was a massive step in the right direction. If you're San Jose State, if you're a fan, for the players, for the coaching staff, like that is what you needed. And, even though the opponent and the win-loss ratio doesn't look pretty, it's a league win. And it's the first true road win of the season for San Jose State, which I mean, for games at home where, you wish you closed things out and, shoulda, woulda, coulda, your record could be a whole lot better. Right now, it's all that if you're a Spartan fan and player, you got to take one game at a time. And Tuesday evening, they got a big game versus the New Mexico Lobos, which, by the way, as far as that game is concerned, look, New Mexico's going to try to speed up San Jose State. New Mexico, one of the fastest paced teams in the country. I mean, SJSU can match that pace, but San Jose State's at home. You want to control the tempo. You don't want to play too fast, too quick into New Mexico's element. So, we'll see what Tim Miles and company do. Um, they're still going to probably play a little bit, do I want to say up tempo, but they're going to still try to play their brand of basketball. And, it's like any game, it's going to come down to turnovers and fast break defense. Because we know when Donovan Dent gets downhill, you know, it's really tough to guard. And the Nelly Jr. Joseph, Rob Viola, big man matchup is going to be fun once again. That was a really fun matchup to watch in Albuquerque when those two teams played. And look, San Jose State was up 15-2 in Albuquerque, and it was really a Donovan Dent fadeaway baseline jumper that really that really sealed the deal in the final 2 minutes. So, quite honestly, I would expect this game to be close on Tuesday night. I'm not going to throw upset alert, that label heading into this game, but look, New Mexico is got to be ecstatic that they're 6-0. Richard Pitino has had his way the past 2 years with his Lobos coming into San Jose, but Jalen House left an imprint on both of those games. He's not here anymore. It's a different group, and like we all know, anyone that watches the Mountain West and just follows this league on a night to night basis, San Jose is. I know I say this almost every podcast, but San Jose State is a place where you have to create your energy because they just, compared to everybody else, they just don't have the crowd, especially with the students not being in town. Like we're still on the semester break, so we'll see how the Lobos handle that, because you want to talk about a contrast in styles from a crowd atmosphere. San Jose State and New Mexico are polar opposites. So that is obviously a dynamic for any team coming into San Jose that they're gonna have to deal with. And hey, San Jose State, they get their first conference win. New Mexico gets their win. Versus the Aztecs 6-0. I mean, can we? we got to start talking at this point maybe about an at-large bid for the New Mexico Lobos, right? I mean, you look at the resume. I mean, outside of the New Mexico State loss at the pit, and sorry to all of our Lobo fans listening out there. Like, we understand it's the rivalry game, but that's a game you can't lose. So, New Mexico State in Conference USA, I mean, sure, they can make that win a little bit more pretty, but that definitely hurts the at-large bid, conversation a little bit. But still, they're scoring all these wins, right? And I know you know, they're probably obviously the San Diego State win is maybe the most quality win, but at Colorado State right now is looking very pretty right now as Colorado State is 5-1 in league play. We'll briefly talk about them. Didn't get a chance to watch too much of their game, but I do want to mention Clifford here in a few moments. But we'll see how that one plays out between SJSU and New Mexico. I will actually be on the call for that game on the radio on 90.5 FM KSJS, ksjs.org. That is a 7 p.m. tip-off Tuesday evening on January the 14th. Looking like a 6:45 pregame coverage, 6:45 Pacific Standard Time, that is. If you want to hear more of me, you want to talk, and we'll chat it up about SJSU in New Mexico, everything heading in, and all of that stuff, and the matchups to look out for. A more in-depth look on the game. Tune in for live coverage of that one if you're interested. But that's what we got. That's what we got going right now. SJSU in New Mexico should be a good one tomorrow night. Let's pivot to the game of the day, probably the game of the weekend. I mean, look, there was like over 100 college basketball games played across the country. There were some good ones, don't get me wrong, but this Boise State Utah State game was elite. Like it was next level. Like, just the degree of difficulty of some of the shot making was incredible. I mean, Boise State and Utah State, this has been a house of horrors for the Boise State Broncos over the years. I don't have the record in front of me, but from what I saw on Twitter, it was something crazy. Like, it's like 4-15, 4-17, something along those lines for Boise State when they've played in Logan. So it's definitely not been a great place for Boise State to go play basketball. Last year, they got absolutely destroyed by like 15, 20 plus in this game. It was never really a game. And Boise State just came out and really set the tone early. We talked about the high degree of, just shot making. And I mean, it was offense that you're not going to see in another Mountain West game this year. So Boise State came out, really set the tone up early. I mean, Boise has not been a great three-point shooting team. They've also not been a great defensive team. They were like top 40 like in total defense last year, overall defense. They're nowhere near those numbers this year to start out. Obviously, that will probably improve by March. But look, Boise in this game just came out firing on all cylinders. Like, it was pretty crazy. I mean, we talked about the Utah State matchup zone. It seemed like every time, and Fresno really seemed to crack the code. Fresno cracked the code on it. San Jose State did some good things against it, and Boise State really, just penetrated and made the extra pass to the outside, and you shoot over the zone and you make it like that. You're gonna have success. It's really that simple. I mean, Boise State, this is a team that makes 6 threes a game. They had 9 in the first half. Tyson Degenhart, 12 first half points. All of them were from beyond the arc. He had 4 total made 3-pointers. Tyson hasn't shot the three that great this year, but San Jose State, in the matchup in December in San Jose, really sagged off against them, dared him to shoot the three. He made all the threes practically. This game was a little bit different, or kind of the same in a way. Like, Utah State was like, okay, we respect Tyson's post play. Like, we don't want him to, really get downhill at all. So they kind of left him open from three. Boise State did a really good job at scheming it up and finding him and, getting him open, and he made the threes. And obviously, if Tyson Degenhart is making threes, that's going to make your life a whole lot difficult for a defense, even for how good the matchup zone has been for Utah State this year. So when Boise State is shooting it lights out like that, I mean, Utah State, all you can do is just like keep playing defense and try to match it as much as possible. And Boise State, they had a lead going into halftime, but it was nothing really crazy. I mean, the fact that they had nine made threes in the first half and they only had like a one or two possession lead was pretty wild. And they came out of the break. I mean, Utah State really was turning over the basketball, couldn't really get a shot up. Boise was making everything still, and next thing you know, you're down 13. And the crowd's out of it, and you got to start finding other ways to impact the game. Utah State, I mean, they obviously got a plethora of guys that can get it going in a hurry, but we're gonna keep mentioning this guy's name because ever since I would say it's been about a month now, maybe less than a month, where he has really taken over and has really become a real threat. And that's Dayton Albury. I mean, this guy started out 4 for 4 with 9 points. He continues to be very good, making an impact offensively. And when you got Ian Martinez and Mason Falslev, and then you throw in Dayton Albury in there, like this team is just going to be tough to stop every night. It doesn't matter. Like they're gonna make shots. Like it's that simple. Like it seems like Utah State just never has a cold game offensively. And outside of maybe a half, the first half against San Diego State, that was probably their worst shooting performance. And we're 16, 17 games into the year now. Like it's incredible like that how talented this team is and how many guys they can go to on a consistent basis and be like, yeah, you feel confident that they're going to make the shot. And they really, Ian Martinez and Mason Falslev really haven't had a bad shooting game yet. And now you got Dayton Albury, who's just gonna really just be a guy that just doesn't miss anymore. Like that is scary. Let's talk about just what happened in crunch time, because the final 6 minutes of this game was high level. Like if you did not watch this game, go find highlights somewhere. And try to see the full game highlights too. Because some of the shots that Boise was making and hitting, and when Utah State comes rallying back, I mean, they were down 13 and they really didn't take them that long to come back. Um, like we said, the final 6 minutes of this game were just incredible. I mean, Drake Allen, by the way. So we talked about the emergence of Dayton Albury, but he comes back from injury. He comes off the bench. He's one of the team captains for this team. So that tells you how he's valued in the locker room. But Allen's coming off the bench, and I was wondering, okay, when Allen comes back, what is this team going to look like? They've been split in the minutes, him and Albury, because you really don't want to run 4 or 5 guards out there for the Aggies and play them both. But Calhoun was finding ways to play Drake Allen and Dayton Albury like in the final minutes when it mattered, which I thought was pretty interesting, something to monitor games going forward. But Drake Allen had some big had a big three in this game late. At the left wing, had a big layup late. Like he is just a winner. Like he came from Utah Valley, Southern Utah, and this guy's on the Utah tour, and clearly, great. He's a great point guard. Like he's gonna play make. But we talked to him at Mountain West Media Days, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm working on the shot a whole lot more," and you can tell he's been working on it because the shot looks good, and especially in crunch time, it looked good. I mean, there was a point in the final 6 minutes of this game where Drake Allen hit a three, Tyson Degenhart came back and hit like a corner three. And then Ian Martinez hit another like silly three that was like barely in his hands. Don't couldn't tell you how Andrew Meadow didn't block it from the right wing. Like some of the shot making, like we said, was just like, is this really happening? Like this is otherworldly type stuff from an offensive standpoint. Javian Buchanan, the NAIA player of the year last year. Uh, he had a big offensive rebound and lay in off a missed 3-pointer. Ian Martinez, I mean, Andrew Meadow. Andrew Meadow, new look, doesn't matter. He cut off all the long hair off of him, and he's over here hitting some threes when it matters. Had a thunderous driving dunk, which kind of set the tone down. And Alvaro Cardenas, look, this was a player at San Jose State for 3 years, and I know he didn't really get a chance because of San Jose State's overall team success to really showcase at a high level what he's all about in crunch time, but he's a crunch time player. I mean, he hit a massive three with 10 seconds left. I know he missed two crucial free throws late, but some of the plays that he was making, like he had a great play, obviously, with the three at the top of the key to really shut down the crowd. But defensively, he had like a crazy play where he took a charge. I remember in the first half, and then poked the ball loose, hit it off of Drake Allen's leg. Like that is just winning basketball. Like you got to be able to sacrifice your body. You have to be able to have active hands. Even when you have a mismatch. Like Cardenas is just a winner, and I know he missed those two free throws. He's normally a great free throw shooter. I think his numbers at around the high 70s this year, around right around the 80s. In San Jose he was always a great free throw shooter, and you just got to wonder if that crowd got to him a little bit. So yeah, that was a little bit uncharacteristic for him, but he made it up with the three late. And to me, and I would just say kind of just not only the theme, I would say, of maybe the weekend, but just it's an element in not only basketball, but I feel like in college basketball more, where you're going to hear as we get into these conference games, as we get into March, and I've talked about this in some of our March Madness conversations last year. Free throws, like free throw shooting, will win or lose you games. And Utah State, for a team that shot 80% in the second half, that's right, 80% shooting in the second half. They shot at 60% overall. But this was a team that missed 12 free throws. That's right. If you want to nitpick one part of Utah State's game, it's their free throw shooting. In this game in particular, I would say. I mean, that just can't happen. I mean, Aubin Gadaretse, the big man, the transfer from Stetson, he just had like a nightmare sequence in crunch time where he missed like four consecutive free throws late. And, Calhoun just immediately got him out of the game. Like, okay, like we got it. We need to change the scenery. They put in Carson Templin in. But man, free throw shooting. We're going to say it now. We're going to say it again, probably in another game, down the road. And we're going to definitely say it in March Madness. That is going to win teams games, and it's going to lose them games. And you just hope for Utah State's sake, when they do get into March Madness, more than likely, that doesn't hurt them, because this is a team where they don't really have a whole lot of weaknesses. Like they're top 25 for a reason. They just jumped up to like number 22 in the AP polls today. There is not a weakness really with this team. But if you wanted to point to something, their free throw shooting, their inconsistency, could get in the way of that. Now, don't get me wrong. Falslev and Martinez are great free throw shooters, but they're going to need a whole lot of things from just overall. They're going to need better team free throw shooting, if you will. Some other things on Utah State. Dexter Akano. I mean, this is another guy. We talked about Albury, but Akano was a guy that from Oregon State last year. He started almost every game, and now he's coming off the bench and averaging 10 a game. Like that's what makes. So I would say there's two tiers, right? There's two teams in the top in like the tier one status in the Mountain West right now. Obviously the undefeated teams, right? Utah State and New Mexico. Can I tell you what those two teams have in common? Their players know their roles and like their coaching's very good. Patino and Calhoun are great, but those players know their roles, right? Acano comes off the bench, different role from what he had at Oregon State, and he's gonna come and be their spark plug. Drake Allen, he's adapting to their role. He knows he's a leadership guy and he's gonna be a vocal guy. But maybe with the emergence of Albury, maybe he's a guy that comes off the bench and has to command in different situations and really be a pass first guy instead of a scorer. That will change on different nights. Falslev knows he's going to be the number one guy to number two guy. Ian Martinez the same way. Those guys are kind of interchangeable depending on who's rolling more. I mean, Tucker Anderson knows he's just going to come out there and shoot threes. Gattaretzi knows that he's going to be a bruiser down low and shot block and run their pick and roll stuff. Like Utah State with the team in the transfer portal era where they get three guys from the Atlantic Sun, they get a new coach, they get a brand new defense, and the core pieces stay. Like that team looks like that they've been playing together for 2 years. And we've seen in the transfer portal era where teams take some time to figure it out. And this team looked like from right off the jump, like they knew how they wanted to play, and all the players knew their roles. And that's important in college basketball. Sometimes you got to take sacrifice, and you won't hear it from folks directly, but maybe after the fact you'll say, you know what, I kind of played above my role. When a guy transfers and he reveals it at his new school, and you know what, I should have been more aggressive. Like you got to be unselfish, and sometimes egos will just get the best of you. It's the way. Sometimes that's just the way it is. Some guys just want to play hero ball. Other guys will. It's always team first. And Utah State, you can tell they clearly have that. It's all about the team first, and then before our individual, statistics and analytics and who's going to take the shot and all of that. And that's why they're top 25 in America. That's why they are the most fearful team in the Mountain West. Because not only do they have, it seems like good leadership qualities with their players, they got talent, they make shots, they guard, and they got one hell of a head coach in Jared Calhoun, which for Aggie fans, you hope he's there next year. But the way Ryan Odom and Danny Sprinkle have had success there, there's question marks there of whether he's going to be there next year. Quite honestly, if he has the train going the way it is. But Ian Martinez, I know we kind of went off on a little tangent there, but I thought that was important. Ian Martinez shot of the game winning 4-point play. Right, it almost. I hate to throw the NBA into this conversation, but it almost had the Kawhi Leonard-esque type shot in the conference semifinals in Game 7 versus the Philadelphia 76ers, like a shot of a lifetime almost, right? Like Kawhi shot on the baseline, just hanging there forever, and then it goes down, and then the crowd goes crazy, right? Ian Martinez, look, he got fouled on the three. The whistle came, and everyone was just so worried about the shot. And then when the shot went down, the place exploded. What a shot. I mean, what a moment. I mean, there's been some great moments in Logan, Utah, even just over like the past calendar year. I mean, the Darius Brown shot last year to clinch the regular season title for the Aggies was just otherworldly. Like there's been some big time shots in that arena in particular from some Aggie players where you're just like, wow, that's going to resonate in that building for quite some time. And I imagine people are still thinking about that Darius Brown shot from last year. And the Ian Martinez shot will probably be not only a shot that Aggie fans look back on, but, just Mountain West fans look back on and be like, wow, that's probably one of the biggest shots we're going to see all year, just overall across the league. So that was a big moment. As far as the final play of the game was, I mean, first and foremost, I personally thought that was not a 5 second violation to shut up that shot. I thought he just got it in time. Not sure my mind's going a mile a minute right now. I'm not sure who was the trigger man in that situation, but he got it off before 5 seconds. And you can argue, well, should Coach Leon call the timeout there on the final play of the game because they were down one or two, whatever it was. They needed the three, or they went for the three. Uh, Utah State played good defense on the man to man, and Cardenas kind of had to put up a Hail Mary. Do you call a timeout in that situation? I don't know. I mean, the players will. I mean, if Cardenas makes the three, right, then you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, we're glad we didn't call the timeout, but he didn't make it. So now it's a different conversation. If you let the defense set up, do you call the timeout? Whatever the case may be, you don't want the defense to set up. I mean, we can argue it all day both ways, and sometimes you're just gonna have to live with the result. But that is a missed opportunity for Boise State. Like it really was. The fact that I mean, you shoot way above your average as far as 3 points makes. I mean, they made 14, 15 threes in this game, and the fact that they still didn't win, that that's gut wrenching. And Boise State's resume, don't get me wrong, like it's still good, but if you had that on your resume, top 25 win, quad one win on the road in Logan, Utah, you question how many games Utah State's going to lose, especially the way how poor the Boston College loss looks now on the Cayman Islands. You lose the Washington State game on the neutral, even though it was in Idaho. I mean, Washington State just lost to Pacific of all teams. Like, their Boise State's losses don't look too great, and now you're starting to circle the wagons a little bit. Like, wow, they're gonna have to score a couple wins on the road, and they're gonna probably need, to not only to avoid the bad loss, but you can't go one and done at the Vegas tournament now. You really don't. You put all these teams on neutrals, and all of a sudden these teams are very similar. So there's levels to this. We could talk about the resume and the analytics and quad one this and net rankings that all we want for pretty much all day for every team in America, but that was a missed opportunity for Boise. It's really that simple. And now you wow. I mean, Boise, like we said, just missed opportunity. You got to move on quick. Got to have a short-term memory in the Mountain West, and you got to go handle your business and make things up here to pick up the pieces. You're gonna need to score some big wins in some big spots. And I know they still go to San Diego State this year. They still go to the Pit. Like there's still plenty more opportunities. The Colorado State game. They're still on the road over there as well. So there's plenty of opportunities. We're still got plenty of time out there. But yeah, that was a tough one if you're a Boise State fan. Very briefly, let's talk about Nevada and Fresno State. I caught the clutch time of this game, the final 5 minutes of it. I mean, look, I feel like our take is pretty strong here on Fresno State. Like they're just one of the most erratic teams in America right now. I mean, the fact that they had Nevada, excuse me, the fact that they had Nevada pretty much, tie game wire to wire. I mean, Nevada's, record wise, it might not showcase that, but Nevada's got so much more talent than Fresno State. This game at the Save Mart Center, and Fresno, I mean, they're battling with injuries, and they're still staying alive here. Like Amar Aguilar is still injured. I know they lost a couple guys in this game. I mean, DJ Douglas, the transfer from Green Bay, who hit 5 threes in this game. He didn't play overtime. Yeah, that's right. This game went to overtime. Uh, Douglas was on crutches, late. A guy that's been hurt, unfortunately, for a large majority of his collegiate career. Tremble, who was a guy coming off the bench and, just providing him 10 points a game, it seemed like. He exited early with the concussion. So Fresno, now they got some key rotation guys that are starting to get hurt, that have been hurt. That is not good. And Fresno is still out here. I mean, they're still battling. Like Vance Wahlberg, he might have an erratic group, but they're still very much like one of these teams that could sure play up and down to their opponent, but they're giving everybody hell every night, it seems like. Uh, like we said, they're a tough team to gauge. They end up losing this game by 11 in overtime. Like Nevada just completely outplayed them. Made some free throws, buttered it up late. So Nevada needed the win so badly. I mean, they were like 0 and 4, 0 and 5 in league play, I believe. Like they lose the heartbreaker at the pit, a game that they probably, even though the refs wanted Nevada to win, you probably should have pulled it off. They were pretty much set up to win the game at the pit in overtime. I mean, Nevada, my question about this team is, I mean, look, so Trey Coleman shot the ball terribly in this game, like went 0 for 7 from 3 and then finally broke through in overtime for his first points. Yeah, first made field goal was at the 4 minute mark in overtime. I'm still trying to figure out who the closer is on this team. Like we talked about the significance of closing out games, like we see San Jose State, like they've had difficulties closing out games, even all season long. And even though that team's talented and we know the team's talented, like you're starting to see like you don't close out games, like you're not going to win, obviously. So Nevada, like they broke through in this game out on the road in Fresno, which was big. And, they finally got like some big time, shots from like Nick Davidson and, Trey Coleman finally came along late, Kobe Sanders. But Kobe Sanders was a guy where I was like the game at the pit, prime example, where they were just setting him up like for the like to make just hit the dagger. And he just couldn't break through. So last year's team, we all knew it's gonna be Jared Lucas and or Keenan Blackshear. This year's team, I don't really know. Like Trey Coleman, don't get me wrong, he's a great defender. Offensively, like he's a defense first guy, and offensively, like he's gonna make the three and he's gonna get you the tough bucket, but not necessarily like one of those guys that okay, I can go rely on him to go get like 25 a game. Nick Davidson, like he's in his third year, he's definitely taken some steps up, but like, is he your guy? Is Kobe Sanders the guy? Like, I want to see Nevada. Like, Nevada's playing in a bunch of these close games, and like they just haven't really executed in crunch time. And this roster is too talented. Like, they got to figure this out. And I understand it could be different guys on different nights, but it just to me it doesn't seem like they have a go-to guy. Like last year, it was so clear on who it was, and I don't know if it's just Kobe Sanders maybe not ready for prime time yet. I mean, last year at Cal Poly, like he was just not in those spots. Can Nick Davidson, the big man, do it? Is Coleman going to step up? I don't know. We'll have to see Nevada in another close game, and maybe our questions will be answered. But that's my question right now for Nevada is who's the closer for this team? And, if you have a play drawn up, uh, who's going to be the guy? I don't really know. And, if you need a three, who's going to get you it? Sure, it might be Dussel, but I don't know. There is some questions right now. I know they broke through for an 11-point win in overtime at Fresno, but I need to see this team a couple more times because it still doesn't look pretty out there for the standards that the Wolfpack had coming into the season, where they were supposed to be like top three in the league. UNLV and Colorado State. This will be our last game that we talk about here from the Saturday slate. I mean, look, we talked about the Rebels. I think they ultimately have a ceiling. Deedon Thomas is great. Henley's been great. The DePaul transfer. Like those are the number one, number two guys. But if they go on the road, I have a tough time against like a team that's just simply better than them. I have a tough time really trusting them to break through. I think that's been the thing about UNLV thus far. They've taken care of business against the teams that they should beat. And, when you lose by 22 at Colorado State, I mean, that doesn't make things look any better. We said we were going to talk about Nique Clifford. I mean, we talked about Donovan Dent last week, excuse me. We talked about Donovan Dent last week about, being player of the year. I mean, Nique Clifford, I mean, wow, he is really, quieting the haters right now and I get if you want to throw me in the hater category, like go for it because I personally didn't think that Isaiah Stevens was going to be replaceable. But when you got Clifford dropping 22 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, a block, and 4 steals in a win versus the UNLV Rebels at home, I just shake my head and go, wow, like that's incredible. You want to talk about a guy that's impacting the game on both sides of the ball, is playmaking and making other guys better. Rashawn Bemba has 22 points in this game. I mean, Jalen Link and Kyan Evans, again, 13 and 11 points respectively. This is a team right now. Nico Medved, he's doing one hell of a job out there in Fort Collins. Like the fact that you lose Stevens and you still got to, like, obviously you have confidence in your roster, but the fact that they're still going out here and winning games and they're 5-1 in league play. And I know they have the one bad loss to UC Riverside, but outside of that, they've taken care of business. And the home loss to New Mexico. Wow. Colorado State, Nique Clifford. Nique Clifford is, I keep saying I think he's gonna be a first round pick in the NBA draft this spring. And he's certainly playing like it. He's got the NBA body, he's got the shot making ability to do so. 7 for 11 shooting, 4 for 5 from beyond the arc. And this is right now, okay. Donovan Dent is probably still player of the year, but Nique Clifford's not too far behind, folks. And the fact that Colorado State is still winning without Isaiah Stevens. And I say this for a reason. I keep mentioning Stevens even though he's not on the roster anymore, because the one stretch where they didn't have Stevens, what was it, his junior year, 2 years ago, Colorado State couldn't win. And maybe that just might have been, the roster construction. When a guy like him goes down and you don't really have another guy to, really replace him on that particular group. Things are different, but wow, Clifford has just been incredible. And there's really not much more to say outside of that. He's impacting the game in so many different ways, and he's just making guys underclassmen that are in the starting lineup really flourish right now. So Colorado State continues to impress me. Again, we'll see what they do on the road. Uh, they've definitely answered the questions on the road. I think they've played at Fresno thus far, and obviously they had the dominant win in San Jose. They play at San Diego State tomorrow, so you can have that angle tomorrow as in Tuesday night. Big test for both teams. San Diego State going to dominate, like prime bounce back performance there for Brian Dutcher, or is Nique Clifford going to continue to dominate and kill the league? So that should definitely be a good one. We got Wyoming and Boise State as well. Air Force and Nevada on the Tuesday Mountain West slate. So hey, we got good action across the board. Um, Obviously, the statement game is Colorado State and San Diego State, 8 p.m. tip on the West Coast here, Pacific Standard Time. So, wow. Anyone wants to stay up late and watch that game, that should be a whole lot of fun there. Before we close things out, I do want to, I think we're going to start doing a segment on our Monday/Tuesday podcasts. When we reflect on the Saturday slate, just do a couple already, if for those who don't know, I'm a big time like mid-major junkie for college hoops. Like I love following the small schools, all the teams that I broadcast. I broadcast for San Jose State. So all the teams that come into San Jose, I love monitoring them throughout the season just to see where they go and see how they develop. So I got 3 players at the mid-major level from the Big West, the Missouri Valley, and Conference USA. Just to throw out there for some big time performances this past Saturday. We already know Saturday's like, it's box office TV all day in college hoops. And everyone likes to talk about the Big 12, the Big 10, the Big East, the SEC, for good reason. Don't get me wrong. That there is some high level talent out there with some great players and some great coaches, but these mid major players and teams out there, don't be sleeping, because a lot of those high major guys that are having success, well, they came from these schools. Dalton Knecht was a prime example. He was SEC Player of the Year. Well, he came from Northern Colorado out of the Big Sky. So you got to get the mid majors some love too. And Two out of the three guys I'm going to mention had some big shots in their respective games. We'll start out with UC Santa Barbara guard Stephon Swenson. Stephon Swenson came to San Jose, and his UC Santa Barbara Gauchos came to San Jose. So I know this roster pretty well. They came into San Jose, got the win. Wasn't pretty. Joe Pasternak's group, great coach. He'll have them ready. Uh, the Gauchos have been a little bit underwhelming for their standards this year, but Stephon Swenson has been the guy where if you need a bucket, he'll get you one. In particular from three, he hit the game. He hit a dagger three in San Jose. He hit a dagger three in Big West play on the island in Hawaii, and in the rivalry game against the Cal Poly Mustangs on the road, hit a game-winning three at the Horn. To win the rivalry game, to put the entire city of Santa Barbara on his back and to win the rivalry game, which I know is very precious down there in Southern California. So Stephon Swenson will give him a game ball from his Saturday big time shot in the rivalry game in the Big West Conference. The Missouri Valley, Bradley, Duke Dean, the guard, game-winning three at Illinois Chicago against the Flames. This is a guy that averages 14 points per game. Big-time shot maker, and my goodness, you want to talk about an absolutely ridiculously beautiful jumper. Duke Dean, look him up. Hit a game-winning three in the final seconds. Bradley's one of the front runners in the Missouri Valley almost every single year. They need his performance every single time they hit the floor. It's going to be Bradley and Drake probably for the front of the Missouri Valley, probably in the conference championship. They're in it every single year, those two teams. And, those two teams are always live in every single first round NCAA tournament game. The problem is only one of those teams get in, and it's always the conference champion. So Bradley's a talented team. So is Drake. And Bradley, who suffered a regular season loss to Drake last week, needed a win on the road at Illinois Chicago, and Duke Dean, he'll get the game ball from his big-time shot on Saturday in the final seconds at Illinois Chicago. And finally, in Conference USA, let's go to Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech is a hyped-up team this year, and for good reason. They got, I think, the preseason player of the year in Daniel Bacho. He's averaging north of 16 a game. They're a big man, fun guy to watch. But Sean Newman Jr., their point guard, in a win versus Liberty, in Ruston, a game that they needed to have. They started out 0-2 in league play, did the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs, and they get a win versus Florida International, aka the airport, and they get a big win versus the Liberty Flames. Liberty's one of always the top teams in Conference USA every single year, and to get that win, Sean Newman Jr., 27 points, 8 assists for the point guard, played the entire game in that win versus Liberty at home. And Sean Newman Jr., this is a guy that's going to play make and, make his teammates better because he leads the country in assists per game with nearly 9 a game. But to have 27 points and only miss a few shots in this game, massive win for the Louisiana Tech resume. So the Bulldogs out in Conference USA getting a big-time win, and they rallied behind Sean Newman Jr. and Daniel Bacho, the preseason player of the year, dominating as well in that one. So we got to shout out a couple of our mid-major players of the weekend. Mid-major players of the weekend in my book, for hitting some big-time shots and having some big-time performances. But, hey, Mountain West is where we're at right now, and right now the league is really starting to heat up. A couple top 25 teams are starting to brew in here. I mean, you can make the conversation for New Mexico, Utah State already in at number 22, and we're going to see how these teams develop and grow. Like we said, never too late to jump on board, but you're missing out right now. You get games like Utah State and Boise State. I mean, this is just high-level basketball that's being played right now. So that will do it for this episode of the Sports Sentiment. If you're interested in tuning in, San Jose State versus New Mexico, I will be live on the radio for that one on 90.5 FM or on ksjs.org on your web browser. That will be a 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tip-off, and at 6:45 is when I will tip off my pregame coverage on the game. So looking forward to that one in San Jose. And like always, I'm your host, Nick Urias, and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.